Welcome to the debate. Today, we're tackling something fun, but honestly, kind of high stakes. The art of throwing a really successful adult party, specifically for Halloween. We want to get past just, checklists and logistics and dig into a pretty fundamental disagreement about hosting. What really makes an event memorable?
Exactly. The core question, as I see it, is where should the host focus their energy? Is it better to prioritize, let's say, a low-stress, high-vibe atmosphere, making sure guests are comfortable? Or should the focus be on a high-commitment, really thematic production, something that delivers an undeniable, immersive spectacle?
Right. And I fall firmly in that first camp. I believe simplicity and a strategically crafted atmosphere really trump elaborate aesthetics any day. My goal is all about minimizing the host's anxiety while carefully building an environment where people can just genuinely relax and connect easily.
And I'm here to argue that for a party to be truly, epic, the kind people talk about as the event of the year, then that high impact, uncompromising production driven by a solid theme, it's absolutely essential. If you don't commit to that spectacle, you're basically just hosting a casual get-together, not crafting an unforgettable experience.
Okay, I get the appeal of the big production, I really do. But let's think about the actual guest experience. The secret to a great party, I think, isn't about hitting some kind of, Pinterest perfect look. It's about creating an atmosphere where people actually want to hang out, relax, connect. And we even have some data here. Like consumer behavior studies show 79% of party guests remember the overall vibe way more clearly than specific decorations. So frankly, when you see stats saying the average host drops over $100 just on temporary decor, it just feels kind of bonkers when you can achieve success with much simpler, high-impact psychological tricks.
That's a strong stat, but I'd frame that memory differently. People remember the vibe because an epic party creates an epic vibe. A simple, maybe low-effort gathering, it produces a vibe that's pleasant but forgettable. My whole argument is that a truly successful party needs to operate like a full, immersive production. That commitment, that intentionality is what elevates it. Without that, you're just, getting friends together in one room. You're not hosting a standout event.
But the most effective tools for a host are often psychological, not visual. And they're usually pretty inexpensive. Like, think about the science getting the background music right. The selection and placement can boost social bonding by up to 24%. Then you pair that with smart dimmer lighting, we're talking maybe 30 to 40% of normal room brightness. That significantly increases conversational intimacy. This isn't just about making it look spooky, it's tapping into psychological effects like de-individualization, which helps people drop their guard and actually talk more freely. You create real intimacy and ease, and you do it without breaking the bank or stressing yourself out.
See, I approach it differently. You're talking about general atmospheric adjustments, fiddling with the dimmer, hitting shuffle on a playlist. I argue the theme is the absolute narrative backbone. If you don't have a clear theme, the event just feels unfocused. It lacks intentionality. There's no shared expectation. It's kind of like seeing a cover band. Yeah, it's nice, but you won't remember that specific night years later. A strong theme means every choice, the decor, how the food looks, the invitation style, it all clicks into one unified, deliberate experience.
Okay, I absolutely acknowledge that a strong theme is powerful for setting guest expectations. I won't deny that. But let's really drill down on what matters most for the actual comfort and, the flow of the party once people are there. You could commit to a huge sinister circus theme or some elaborate haunted Versailles thing, right? But if the basic technical stuff, the sound, the light, is off, the whole experience just kind of falls apart. So I still maintain that those foundational elements like controlling sound and light properly are just universally more effective for creating the right vibe than, say, super elaborate theme-specific decorations.
Quite convinced there, because the theme dictates the necessary scale and the required production level. It informs those technical choices. If you invite people to a masquerade ball, they're anticipating a certain kind of sophisticated darkness, maybe velvet, flickering candles, a sense of mystery. But if your theme is, I don't know, a loud, fun camp slasher party, the whole vibe shifts. You'd need bold, maybe colored floodlights, kind of unhinged, high-energy props. The logistics, the technical foundation you're talking about has to follow from the theme's demands. Otherwise, you're just putting generic atmospheric band-aids on something that doesn't have a core narrative.
And that's where we fundamentally see the cause and effect differently. You see theme driving everything. I see the environment as the operational base. Experience shows, I think, that keeping background music around 70 to 75 decibels is actually more critical for social ease than whether you've got custom velvet drapes. And crucially, if that music creeps up past, say, 80 decibels, you hit what some social psychologists call the shout economy.
The shout economy?
Yeah, it forces people into these small, isolated groups where they have to physically lean in and basically yell to be heard. That 75 decibel ceiling is really the line between social bonding and social fragmentation. Why would I risk that essential connection just for a fancier prop?
Okay, that's a compelling point about the survival of conversation. Fine. But are you considering the host's visible level of commitment? The strategy that wins, in my book, is the one that sparks real excitement in conversation before the party even starts and keeps people buzzing after they leave. And that demands high commitment to the production. You're advocating simplicity mostly to save the host stress, which is valid, but I argue if you want your guests to really go all out, elaborate costumes, full engagement, then you have to go all out first. The host absolutely sets the standard for spectacle.
I agree the host sets the standard, absolutely. But my approach isn't about lowering quality. It's about ensuring sustainable quality by streamlining the really stressful parts. We know, like from industry reports, something like 78% of hosts make their drink options way too complicated.
It causes bottlenecks, they waste time mixing. Why run a full bar? Just create one signature cocktail, maybe batch up a blood orange Manhattan or something similar. It creates more buzz, honestly, and you can pre-batch everything. That frees the host from playing bartender all night, letting them actually manage the atmosphere and talk to people.
A batch cocktail is fine, but
And hang on, consider interactive food too. You can skip the expensive catering nightmare. Focus on easy, engaging stuff, like a build-your-own chili bar with tons of toppings. That generates something like 44% more guest interaction than just putting out pre-plated food. And it costs way less, maybe $3 to $5 per guest versus $12 to $15 for complex catering. Plus, it naturally gets people moving, talking, comparing choices. Here, simplicity is the feature. It leads to a relaxed host and a more engaged environment.
I'm sorry, but I cannot accept that a build-your-own chili bar aligns with the goal of hosting the event of the year. We might be talking about two fundamentally different tiers of parties here. When I say high commitment, I mean success involves using food and drink as like must-have number two, the visual set piece. They have to be spectacles that double as decor. We're talking cocktail syringes filled with red liquid, or a witch's cauldron punch that actually smokes with dry ice. That takes way more planning and effort than a simple batch cocktail or a cheap chili station. If the food doesn't make someone ask, wait, is that actually edible? Then you haven't fully committed to the theme. You're choosing the host's relaxation over the guest's potential for amazement.
Okay, you've really hit the nail on the head there. That's the core philosophical split. You're valuing the wow photo op, that temporary spectacle, over what I see as actual guest comfort and the flow of real conversation and connection. For me, the ultimate measure of success is that social comfort. It's successful interaction. Low lights, maybe groups of unscented candles placed just right to cast interesting shadows. That moderate music volume, it's all designed specifically to build intimacy and bonding. Look, when people feel comfortable and frankly safe enough to engage, they stay longer, they connect more deeply. And host anxiety? It's contagious. A relaxed host, running smooth, simple logistics, that translates directly to relaxed guests.
I see the appeal of that ease. I do. But I'd argue that deep connection can only truly happen if the event is memorable enough to keep people engaged and talking about it long after it's over. If you don't create at least one moment of genuine spectacle, you risk hosting a party that's perfectly nice, perfectly pleasant, but forgotten by Tuesday. The goal has to be creating something unforgettable, something that generates that post-party buzz to story people tell at work on Monday.
Mm.
And that requires my third mandatory element, one unforgettable interactive element.
But an interactive element doesn't need to be a huge production. The shared experience of two people standing side by side figuring out their chili toppings is interactive.
Not in the way I mean something that forces genuine, maybe structured engagement, something that anchors the narrative experience. This could be, I don't know, a corner with a convincingly dressed palm reader, or a themed trivia game with actual stakes, or a costume contest judged properly with custom trophies, not just, candy bars. If your party doesn't have anything unexpected or slightly challenging to do, people will just hang out, drink your admittedly well-batched cocktail, eat, and probably leave by 10 p.m. You need that unexpected moment that makes guests stay engaged and leave feeling like, wow, that was amazing. That is the non-negotiable standard for the event of the year.
So, okay, the cost of failure looks different in our models. If your huge production goes wrong, it goes wrong spectacularly, right? It's a potential disaster. If my simpler, atmospheric party kind of fizzles, well, it's just forgotten. My low-stress, strategic approach is about reducing that host risk while maximizing the chance for real conversational reward.
Well, we've definitely laid out two distinct and I think credible paths here, each with its own logic. My approach, it minimizes that host anxiety, maximizes guest comfort, focuses on genuine bonding through smart, low-cost atmospheric tricks, the lighting, the sound control, simple, interactive logistics. I still believe that the atmosphere, the vibe you get through creating ease, is the most important thing.
And my position remains that the absolute highest level of party success demands that unwavering commitment to a cohesive theme and to creating spectacle. True excellence means you have to build intentional decor zones, make the food and drinks part of the story, and crucially include mandatory interactive elements. That's what lifts it from just a casual gathering to an unforgettable, high-production experience. Guests commit when they see the host has fully committed to the spectacle first.
It really highlights two clear philosophies, doesn't it? It boils down to whether your main priority is maximizing that social ease and deep conversation, or if it's maximizing memorable impact and, well, that wow factor. Hopefully the listener now has a better framework to think about their own hosting style, look at the evidence we discussed, and decide what level of commitment feels right for them.